Peter Parker's secret identity as Spider-Man has been revealed to the world thanks to Jonah Jameson of the Daily Bugle, who has also falsely blamed Parker for the death of Mysterio and an alleged mass casualty event in London. He and Michelle Jones are cornered by a mob of onlookers who eventually swarm them, and they're forced to run from the press and the law enforcement. They end up meeting May Parker and Happy Hogan in Parker's apartment, where Parker reveals that the two have broken up. Not long after, they and Ned Leeds are arrested by the U.S. Department of Damage Control and taken in for questioning. Parker retains the services of Matt Murdock, who successfully has the allegations against him withdrawn. In spite of this, when Parker, Jones, and Leeds return to Midtown High for their senior year, they are rejected from every college they apply to, including MIT, due to the huge controversy surrounding them. In order to help his friends get into MIT, Parker travels to the New York Sanctum and asks Dr. Strange to conceal Spider-Man's identity once again. Strange tries to use the runes of Kof-Kool to cast the spell, despite Wong's warnings to the contrary. Parker, however, is constantly tweaking the spell in order to exempt specific people who are important to him from its effects. This causes the spell to become unstable, requiring Strange to keep it under control. Strange is unhappy with Parker for not informing college officials of their planned meeting with him. When Parker tries to appeal his, Jones, and Leeds' MIT applications, he is directed to an official at the Alexander Hamilton Bridge by Flash Thompson, who was admitted. Dr. Octopus, who appears to know Parker well, springs an unexpected surprise on him. Dr. Octopus snatches him up and rips off a chunk of iron spider armor, transferring the armor's nanotechnology to his tentacles in the process. Dr. Octopus rushes in for another blow, but Spider-Man reveals his identity, and he is immediately scared off. After saving the MIT administrator from tumbling over the bridge, Spider-Man uses the suit's nanites to seize control of Dr. Octopus' tentacles. The administrator decides to help Spider-Man and his companions gain admission to MIT as a gesture of appreciation. When the Green Goblin shows up, he intends to kill Spider-Man, but he and Dr. Octopus end up in Strange Sanctum, where the good doctor locks up the villains. He tells Parker that the villains who know Spider identity, Dr. Man's Octopus, Lizard, and Green Goblin, are not from this dimension but rather from other realities in the multiverse and were dragged here by the failed spell. Strange puts the spell inside the legendary Machina D. Catavis to keep it in check. Parker is enlisted to assist track down and apprehend these visitors, and his suit is given a magical modification so that he can do so. With the help of Jones and Leeds, Spider-Man tracks down Electro outside of town. He's startled, so he fights Spider-Man and ends up with the upper hand, but Sandman steps in to protect him. They collaborate to cut the electricity lines, which eventually heals Electro's body. Sandman thinks Spider-Man is dead when he is taken to the Sanctum, but he is captured before he can exact revenge. Other than that, Norman Osborn breaks his mask and runs away to an FAST facility in an effort to shed his Green Goblin identity. May's help in tracking down Osborn allows Spider-Man to capture and bring him to the Sanctum. Osborn, Dr. Octopus, and Electro quickly come to terms with the fact that they died and were revived by the spell, and that if they were to return home, they would die again. Strange tells Spider-Man that he and his two rivals are destined to die in a battle between Spider-Men. On behalf of the broader multiverse, he plans to utilize the Machina to undo the spell and return them to their predetermined outcomes. After learning that they can be saved from their evil tendencies and death by using the Machina, Spider-Man snatches it from Doctor Strange and runs away. Strange pursues Spider-Man, reclaims his magic, and sends him into the mirror dimension to retrieve the Machina, all the while pleading with him to do the right thing because the fate of the multiverse hangs in the balance. Without flinching, Spider-Man traps Strange in a web matrix and takes his sling ring. The convicts are freed once he gives Leeds the ring and Jones the Machina. Spider-Man rescues the refugees from the multiverse and brings them to Hogan's condo, where he hopes to treat them. First up is Dr. Octopus, for whom he uses a Stark Industries fabricator to create a new inhibitor chip for his tentacles, allowing him to regain some of his mental faculties. Electro also has an energy siphon implanted to drain his abilities. The Green Goblin persona takes over Osborn's body before he can be entirely affected, and convinces Electro to remove the siphon before it can take away his skills. He uses the energy from an arc reactor he has stolen to force Octavius to flee the building. After being attacked by the Green Goblin, Spider-Man falls to the ground floor, allowing Lizard, Sandman, and Electro to make their getaway. May dashes outdoors and tries to inject an antidote into Green Goblin, but it doesn't work. After Green Goblin smacks May over the head with his Goblin glider, he launches 2 pumpkin bombs that Spider-Man can't defuse. Spider-Man finds May under the debris. May, unaware of her severe wounds, advises her nephew to keep fighting for justice even though he faces insurmountable obstacles, and warns him that with tremendous power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man tries to save May as DODC officers close in, but she dies right in front of him. Hogan shows up at the scene and is promptly taken into custody by the cops. Spider-Man, overcome with guilt after the attack, runs away after reading Jameson's gaslighting account. Jones, alarmed by Spider-Radio Man's silence, is about to activate the Machina when Leeds accidentally activates a portal using the sling ring. While looking for Spider-Man, they notice someone who looks much like their Spider-Man on the other side of the portal and try to summon him over. It doesn't take long for them to figure out that this Spider-Man isn't from their universe, but rather one where he has already battled the Lizard and Electro. Again, Leeds attempts, but this time he calls in a different Peter Parker, one who has already battled the Green Goblin, Octavius, and Sandman. Eventually, the gang locates their Spider-Man on top of Midtown and tries to comfort him about May, but he is too distressed over his faults to listen. Prior to using the Machina to return the multiversal travelers home, the other 2 Parkers began sharing their own stories of loss and bitterness to help him deal with his own and understand that he is not alone. Now that he's feeling better, Spider-Man goes forward with his original plan and starts curing the bad guys. To develop a treatment for the bad guys, the Parkers, Jones, and Leeds go to a classroom laboratory in Midtown. Parker, aka Osborn, designs an anti-serum for Green Goblin. Parker, aka Electro, recreates the Lizard antidote to return him to normal, and Spider-Man, aka Parker, prepares the treatments for Sandman and Electro. Then, while Leeds and Jones stay behind in the lab, the others travel via a portal to the Statue of Liberty. Spider-Man uses the Machina to dial into the Daily Bugle and broadcast a message, alerting Lizard, Electro, and Sandman to his location. When they got there, they attacked the 3 Spider-Men that were on the scaffolding. Since they can't work together, the web slingers get wiped out. They form a triumvirate, with Spider-Man at the helm thanks to his time spent with the Avengers. Each member of the team is given a codename, with Spider-Man becoming Peter 1, Norman Osborn Spider-Man becoming Peter 2, and Electro Spider-Man becoming Peter 3. After discussing their options, they decide to take on and defeat Sandman first. To defeat Marco, Peter 3 first restrains Lizard before retrieving Sandman's cure and giving it to Peter 1. As a result of Electro's enhanced strength from the arc reactor, the 3 Spider-Men fail in their effort to steal it from him. As a result of Lizard's escape, he attacks Jones and Leeds in the lab, prompting Peter 1 to go outside and battle him. Peter 1 uses Leeds and his sling ring to coerce Lizard into opening a bottle containing the antidote that will transform Kurt Connors back into human form. When Leeds inadvertently brings Strange to the battlefield, Strange sees Connors and realizes Peter Peaceful One's strategy is successful. Strange reclaims the Machina and his sling ring from Leeds. Electro easily dispatches Peter 2 and Peter 3 until Octavius arrives to remove the arc reactor for himself, neutralizing Electro in the process. Peter 3 makes peace with Dylan, while Peter 2 is greeted with open arms by Octavius. While Strange is getting ready to use the Machina to send everyone home, Peter 1 heads back to Strange. Green Goblin attacks without warning, steals the Machina, but Octavius and Strange recover it. But the Green Goblin had hidden a pumpkin bomb within it, and they had no idea. It explodes, letting out the bottled-up unstable spell and ripping the fabric of the universe to let in the multiverse. Jones is also knocked from the Statue of Liberty by the explosion. Peter 1 dives to save her but is pushed off by the Green Goblin. As he rescues her, Peter 3 starts to cry because he is suddenly brought back to the night Gwen Stacy was killed. Green Goblin is still at large when daylight comes, and it's up to Peter 1 to take him on by himself. Overcome with rage, He savagely attacks him and tries to kill him with his glider, but Peter 2 stops him in time. But now Green Goblin can easily stab him in the back. Peter 3 gives Peter 1 the anti-serum he needs to save Osborn from becoming Green Goblin. He sees that Peter 2 was injured, but not fatally, and understands the full scope of the disaster he wrought. Weird forces fight to seal off the holes in the cosmos, where invaders are already making preparations to storm our world. But Peter 1 has him cast a new magic that would make everyone forget his identity so that he can mend it. After this, Peter 1 is supported in his role as Spider-Man by his several selves. Using the new spell, Strange successfully returns Peter 2, Peter 3, Dylan, Octavius, Osborn, Marco, and Connor to their home universes and closes the rifts between them. Spider-Man gives his final embrace to Leeds and Jones, telling them he'll be back someday to make sure they never forget him. He leaves as Strange casts the spell, making Parker's existence invisible to the outside world. It's the holidays now, after a few weeks have passed. Parker tries to get in touch with his old pals at MIT, but after thinking about Jones' injuries, he decides against it. In order to pay his respects, he goes to May's cemetery alongside Hogan, another new acquaintance. Parker, determined to make a go of it in his new life, moves into a new apartment on his own and immediately begins studying for his GED. Upon receiving a phone call about criminal activity, Peter quickly sews together a more basic costume and went back to being Spider-Man without interruption, living up to May's ideals of public service. The credits cut to a scenario in which Eddie Brock and his symbiotic companion Venom sit at a pub and have a conversation with the bartender about the Blip and other superheroes. As the two were discussing how to guard this new planet, Strange cast a magic that whisked them back to their own reality, taking with it an unnoticed piece of the symbiote. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider subscribing to our channel.